8 years ago, I picked up a camera for the first time, and since then, I've learned so much about photography, art, and debt. But I've also discovered so much about myself and about the world in general. So in this video, I'll give you the gift of learning from my mistakes so that you don't have to make them too, as well as some of the most important lessons I've learned about taking great photos. Think of it kind of like one of those shortcuts in Mario Kart where you get to skip all of those plants that try to eat you, except like for photography. Before we get to the final boss advice that gives you X-ray vision and levitation abilities, we have to start at the beginning. Every single street photographer, no matter who, has to unlock one thing before they can get past level 1. And that's confidence. Trust me, I get it. Going out into the city to take photos of strangers feels kind of odd at first. And getting closer and closer to get the compositions you really want is scary as f. But the fact is, you have to get your confidence up before you're going to be able to do your best work. If you're nervous, you're not going to be focused, you're not going to be calm, and you're going to miss the decisive moment. The really good news about confidence is that you don't have to suddenly become one of those sunglasses and singlet gym guys. You just have to practice. When I started taking street photos, I wasn't just nervous in the street, I was nervous in life. I mean, back then I would have described myself as a socially anxious introvert. Me. All it took was just pushing myself to get a little tiny bit more scared every time I went out to take photos. If you get 1% more confident every day, imagine how confident you'll be in 1 year, let alone 8. When you make growing your confidence a habit, the benefit to your whole life is massive. And it makes you a better photographer. Now, speaking of habit, that brings us to the next level, or several thousand. Heard of this chap? Honoré Cartier-Bresson. And aside from being extremely French and a little bit of an anarchist, is kind of considered the godfather of street photography. And he famously said, your first 10,000 photographs are your worst, which now that I'm saying it out loud sounds kind of discouraging. Thing is, that doesn't mean that your second photo or 300th photo or 4,000th photo will still be bad. What it means is that you'll keep getting better for ages and ages because there's so much room to improve. And if you think about it, it's also kind of reassuring. If you're planning on taking photos for many years to come, you don't need to stress out about each individual photo as much. Not everything you try is going to work. Sometimes you'll miss the moment because you're too slow. Other times you might mess your settings up. Sometimes you might even forget to put film in your camera. Ask me how I know. Thing is, messing up one photo doesn't matter because the photos being good is the icing. Going out and seeing the city and getting creative and having a good walk is the cake. I might not have anything good on this roll at all. That's okay. I had fun shooting it. Now, the next level is one of the most important and it involves disappointing your mother, so listen up. If you wanted to publish a kid's book, would you write the story first and then illustrate it, or would you illustrate and then write the story? You'd write the story first and then do the pictures, right? Because otherwise you wouldn't know what pictures to draw. And I know it might sound strange, but I think you should do the same thing with your photography. Sure, those eye candy Instagram banger style shots will probably impress your mum, but without a deeper story, they're going to lack depth. Instead, start by finding stories that speak to you. Maybe you're particularly interested in people who are carrying too much at once. Or maybe it's how people act when they're talking on the phone in public. Once you get really good at spotting and then reacting to the stories that you like, it becomes second nature. And then once you've got really good at picking out those stories, you can start to add back in all of that visual eye candy stuff, but better. See, if you know the story, you know which visual tricks you can use that will help to reinforce that story. Instead of just randomly picking frames within frames or rule of thirds, you can select the right compositional techniques to help you to tell the story you want to tell. If the story that you want to tell is chaotic, you can shoot with a really wide angle and go tilty. If it's light and funny, you can look for colors. If there's a rule I break more than just about any other, it's rule of thirds, and that's what brings us to our next level. Break the rules. But why? For some reason, new photographers often obsess over getting their photos technically correct or perfect, and while there is some merit to learning how to do that, I don't think it's the final destination. Art is about self-expression, and if you're only ever doing paint-by-numbers tutorial-style shots, then you're expressing somebody else's ideas and feelings, not yours. Don't use likes on Instagram or comparisons with other people's work to figure out how good your photos are. Use your heart. Some people really hate my photos, and that's totally cool with me. I'm not trying to make something that everybody likes. I'm trying to make something that is as uniquely, honestly me as possible, and I think you should do the same for you. Another way to both enjoy photography more and use Instagram less is to get inspiration from the real world. Looking at the 3 most popular photos of the week on your phone screen on Instagram isn't exactly going to change your life. Instead, go to some damn art galleries. Most of them are free, and you're definitely going to meet some really interesting people. As well as galleries, get some printed art in your house. Seriously, it actually feels like art and not content. I can't recommend Frames Magazine enough, so much so that I got them to sponsor this video. Frames Magazine comes out each quarter, and in each issue they share a bunch of different work from a selection of photographers, not just street photographers, but all kinds, fine art, portraits, you name it. It's printed on lovely paper, and each photo is displayed on a full page. It's not packed full of ads for camera bags or whatever. It's just art. But wait, he says, there's more. My favorite thing about Frames Magazine isn't actually the magazine itself, it's the community around it. Not only is there a great app, there are events and live streams and talks from some amazing photographers and more. See, Frames Magazine is more than just a nice artsy magazine for your side table. It's a real investment in your photography journey. Filling up your brain with great art will make you a better photographer. It's an amazing source of inspiration, and it's also quite reasonably priced, especially if you use my discount code HYDRATED10 to get 10% off your subscription. There are links in the pinned comment and in the description. You know what to do. Thanks, Frames Mag. And now, the big one, the boss fight. Stop learning photography. No, really, hear me out on this one. Street photography teaches you a lot about yourself, not just what stories you like and what you react to, but it teaches you how you deal with failure, how you solve problems, and how you persevere. Now, somebody much wiser and probably much more beardy than me once said, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And in learning to take great street photos, you'll end up accidentally learning how to be creative across all the other areas of your life as well. You'll learn perseverance and determination and thinking outside the box. So if making art teaches you about yourself, you end up in a feedback loop where you're constantly improving yourself, which improves your art, which improves yourself. It might sound silly, but street photography has been kind of like therapy for me. It's helped me get through some pretty tough times in my life. It's helped me to be more confident in my ability to get better at stuff and to learn, and it's helped me deal with failure when that inevitably happens. So this weekend, get out and take some photos and then share them with us in the Discord. And if it's rainy and cold, that's not an excuse, because you can watch this video here where I'll teach you all the tips and tricks to making awful grey weather look quite nice, actually. Stay hydrated and create art.